Picture this, you're standing in an airport, casually observing the people around you. You think you've got them all figured out, until one unexpected moment flips everything you assumed on its head. Today's story is about pride, humility, and an unforgettable encounter with none other than Keanu Reeves that will leave you rethinking first impressions. Welcome to Motivation for Success. Here, we share uplifting stories and powerful lessons to inspire personal growth and positive change. If you enjoy tales that challenge perceptions and warm the heart, hit that subscribe button and join us. Don't forget to share where you're watching from in the comments below, and stay tuned, because we have another inspiring story coming your way tomorrow. It was a bustling afternoon at Winfield International Airport, a place where lives briefly intersect among lines, security checks, and departure gates. Luggage wheels clattered across the polished floors, announcements echoed over the PA system, and travelers hurried past one another, each wrapped in their own thoughts and schedules. Amid the crowd in the first-class check-in area stood a man exuding quiet confidence, Keanu Reeves. Dressed in a simple flannel shirt, faded jeans, and scuffed boots, Keanu carried a worn-out backpack that seemed to hold more stories than items. There was nothing flashy about him, yet anyone who paused to observe might sense a calming energy around him. While many travelers stood anxiously juggling their phones, passports, and boarding passes, he seemed content just to be present, unhurried by the surrounding frenzy. Directly behind him, however, stood another passenger, a sharply dressed man named Logan Cross. From his neatly tailored suit to his polished shoes and designer watch, Logan projected the image of someone who believed he had earned his way into this exclusive line. He stood taller than most, his posture rigid, and wore a cologne that virtually declared his presence. Whenever he shifted or spoke, it was with a certain dramatic flair, as though determined to prove he belonged. When Logan finally took notice of Keanu's casual outfit, he felt a spark of disapproval. "First class, huh?" he muttered, giving Keanu a cursory glance. "You never know who you might see in this line these days." Keanu turned, offering a polite smile. "The world is full of surprises," he said gently. Logan narrowed his eyes, expecting some sort of defensive reaction, but it never came. Keanu's calmness unsettled him. Despite his attempt at sarcasm, Logan's jabs were only met by a serene politeness. Soon the boarding announcement for first class played overhead. Passengers filed into the jet bridge, scanning their tickets and stepping onto the plush carpets of the airplane's forward cabin. Keanu calmly found his seat near the front, still wearing that same peaceful expression. Then came Logan's turn to board. He double-checked his boarding pass, confirming the seat he had chosen specifically for extra comfort and prestige. When he stepped into the cabin, his eyes locked on Keanu Reeves, who was settling into the seat right next to his. Logan froze for a moment. "You've got to be kidding me," he muttered under his breath. Of all the seats, it had to be the one next to this casually dressed man who clearly did not fit Logan's idea of a first-class passenger. Keanu greeted Logan with a simple nod. "Looks like we're neighbors for this flight," he remarked, adjusting his backpack. With a taut grin, Logan settled in. He could not quite pinpoint why, but being seated next to Keanu made him uncomfortable. Perhaps it was the stark contrast, Logan's thirst for status clashing with Keanu's quiet self-possession. The airplane soon soared into the skies, and the flight attendants began service in the exclusive first-class cabin. Passing out warm towels and menus, a polite flight attendant offered Logan a beverage. "Champagne, please," Logan said confidently, making sure his voice projected enough to be heard by anyone nearby. When it was Keanu's turn, he simply asked for water. Logan couldn't resist making another comment. "Water? In first class? Don't tell me you're missing out on the premium experience already." Keanu took the bottle of water and shrugged lightly. "I'm perfectly happy with this." Logan tried to chuckle, but it came off more like a derisive snort. "Well, not everyone is cut out to enjoy the finer things in life." Without missing a beat, Keanu replied, "Maybe the finer things look different for different people." Other passengers, half listening from their luxurious seats, cast quick glances in Logan's direction. Noticing this, Logan doubled down, determined to assert his superiority. "So," Logan began, tilting his champagne flute, "what do you do for a living?" A faint challenge underlined his question. Keanu set his water down. "I work in film," he replied calmly. Logan arched an eyebrow. "Oh, commercials and small projects, I suppose." "Something like that," Keanu responded, ever composed. Logan leaned in. "Well, life's tough out there. If you can make it, good for you. But some spaces, like first class, aren't exactly for everyone," he said, swirling the champagne in his glass before taking a self-assured sip. Keanu didn't rise to the bait. Instead, he rested his gaze on the clouds outside. "If life has taught me anything," he said, "it's that we all end up in the same place when the flight is over." A few passengers exchanged amused smiles. The flight attendant, noticing tension in Logan's voice, lingered nearby, ready to diffuse any escalating situation. Logan's lips twitched. He realized Keanu's words contained a truth he hadn't expected, yet his pride insisted he keep pushing. Logan launched into a lengthy monologue about success, how it must be shown off so people know your worth. He bragged about his job, though, notably, he never mentioned specifics, his multiple properties, and his membership in exclusive clubs. All the while, Keanu listened politely, offering only a nod or a short word here and there. Growing impatient, Logan probed further. "Some people talk about humility and simplicity, but that's only because they've never had real power or luxury." Keanu turned, looking at him. "And sometimes, people who talk the loudest about what they have are the loneliest inside." The hush that fell over that section of the cabin was palpable. Logan felt heat rise to his face, uncertain how to respond. A few minutes later, he tried to laugh it off and said, "Easy for you to claim you're above it all. But that's not how the real world works. If you don't promote yourself, you get ignored." Keanu's expression remained steady. "Maybe. But true success, in my experience, doesn't need constant reminders. It stands on its own." No matter what Logan said, Keanu's calm presence seemed impenetrable. Passengers nearby observed the unfolding drama, silently approving of Keanu's composure. Logan, though still convinced he had the upper hand, was actually painting himself as an arrogant show-off in the eyes of everyone around him. As the hours slipped by, Logan's frustration grew. His attempts to demean Keanu kept bouncing off an invisible shield. Keanu's soft-spoken replies and gracious attitude made Logan appear petty by comparison. Eventually, Logan's temper reached a breaking point. "You think you've got it all figured out, sitting there with your cheap attire," he said, raising his voice. "You act like you're better than me, as if you know everything." Keanu turned, meeting Logan's glare without flinching. "I never said I was better. I just think we should treat people with kindness." Logan let out a bitter laugh. "Kindness doesn't pay the bills, does it?" "It might not," Keanu allowed, "but it's priceless for the spirit." Before Logan could spit out another insult, the flight attendant intervened, quietly reminding them that many passengers were trying to rest. Logan settled back with a forced smile, trying to save face. If only he knew how the next few moments would unravel his entire perspective. Not long after, the flight attendant approached with a warm smile. She leaned toward Keanu. "Mr. Reeves," she said courteously, "the captain asked me to let you know your connection in Brighton City has been confirmed. He also wants to personally send his regards." Her voice carried enough volume for a few nearby passengers, and Logan, to hear. Suddenly, the mention of Mr. Reeves made eyes widen throughout first class. Whispers spread like wildfire, "That's Keanu Reeves." A few people turned their heads, their expressions shifting from curiosity to awe. Logan blinked rapidly, mouth open. "Wait, Keanu Reeves," he stuttered. "The Keanu Reeves?" Keanu offered the flight attendant a polite nod. "Thank you," he said. Turning back to Logan, he offered a friendly smile. "Is something on your mind?" The color drained from Logan's face. He had spent the entire flight lobbing thinly veiled insults at a globally beloved actor, someone known not just for his on-screen roles, but for his generosity and humility in real life. In that split second, Logan realized the full weight of his error. I had no idea," Logan finally managed. "I didn't know who you were." "You didn't need to," Keanu said softly. "I don't believe names should change how we treat each other." Logan looked around at the other passengers, many of whom stared at him with disapproval. His bravado was nowhere to be found. "Look, man, I'm sorry. I was out of line." Keanu offered a small shrug. "Apologies accepted. But remember, what you said before still matters. Our words reveal who we are." Logan sank back into his seat, speechless. He had never felt so humiliated, yet also, strangely, relieved. The revelation that the person he belittled was not just an A-list actor, but also someone known for genuine kindness, made him feel smaller than ever. Silence blanketed the first-class cabin. No one dared to resume their conversations, feeling as though they'd just witnessed a cautionary tale unfold right before them. Logan's mind raced, replaying every scornful comment he had aimed at Keanu. How could he have been so blind? It felt as if the plane itself was in a state of suspended animation, floating through the sky while Logan wrestled with shame and regret. He tried to shrink into his seat, no longer making eye contact with anyone. Time seemed to crawl. Keanu, however, didn't appear to hold any grudge. He glanced at Logan from time to time with a gentle neutrality, as if to say, "It's okay. We all make mistakes." Finally, as the plane began its descent, Logan mustered the courage to speak. "Listen," he began, not meeting Keanu's eyes, "I was arrogant. I get that now. I judged you because, well, I just assumed. I'm sorry." Keanu inclined his head. "Apology accepted. What's important is that you learn something from this." Logan nodded slowly, the weight of the words pressing on him. "I never realized how badly I needed a wake-up call," he admitted, voice trembling. "Everyone is always trying to prove something, and I guess I got caught up in that. I saw your jeans and backpack and, I guess I thought you didn't belong. I had no clue." "You know," Keanu said gently, "I've met a lot of people who have plenty, but they're empty inside. It's not my place to judge anyone's journey, but I do believe we can all show each other a little more compassion." Logan let out a heavy sigh. "I suppose I have a lot of rethinking to do." When the plane finally touched down and rolled to the gate, a hush still permeated the cabin. Logan remained seated while Keanu stood, retrieving his backpack from the overhead compartment. This was usually the moment in first class where people jostled to get off first, but there seemed to be an unspoken reverence among the passengers. Quietly, Logan rose to his feet. He hesitated, then looked Keanu in the eye. "Thank you," he said. "Not just for tolerating me, but for teaching me something important." Keanu gave a small nod, slinging his backpack over one shoulder. "We all have moments where we let our pride get the better of us. But it's how we choose to move forward that counts." Logan watched as Keanu turned to exit the plane. He observed how the flight attendant and even a couple of other passengers approached Keanu, offering polite greetings or shy smiles. To each of them, he responded as graciously as he had with Logan, no trace of irritation or superiority. In that moment, Logan saw a glimpse of what real class looked like. Stepping off the aircraft, Logan kept back while Keanu Reeves was greeted by a few discreet admirers in the terminal. Some asked for photos, others simply wanted to say hello. Keanu treated them all with the same warmth and respect he had shown on the plane, as though each person was the most important individual he would meet that day. It hit Logan like a tidal wave of clarity. Here's a man adored by millions, wealthy beyond measure, and yet he chooses simplicity and kindness. Meanwhile, I have been fixated on being recognized and admired. Standing alone in the terminal, Logan realized his approach to life could use a drastic shift. He observed Keanu blending into the crowd, not seeking the spotlight. There was no entourage of staff, just the confident stride of someone completely comfortable in his own skin. Logan found a quiet seat near a massive window overlooking the runway. He took a moment to gather his thoughts. Despite feeling embarrassed, he also felt strangely grateful. This unexpected run-in with Keanu Reeves had revealed the emptiness behind his pursuit of status and approval. He recalled how he'd arrived at Winfield International Airport that morning, mentally listing off his accomplishments and possessions, determined to show the world he was someone of importance. And in just a couple of hours, all that bravado had crumbled in the face of a gentle truth: what truly matters is how we treat others. As the minutes ticked by, Logan found himself replaying Keanu's parting words: "We all have moments where pride gets the better of us. But it's how we choose to move forward that counts." He stood up, rolling his shoulders back as though physically preparing himself for a new chapter. If a single plane ride could open his eyes so profoundly, perhaps he could allow that lesson to shape the rest of his life. Many of us, like Logan, measure success by the seat we can afford on a plane, the brands on our clothing, or the grandeur of our homes. Yet what if the real measure of success lies in the kind of person we are when no one's looking? Keanu Reeves showed that genuine humility and kindness don't require an audience, and they're not just for show. They stem from a place of self-assurance and respect for others, traits infinitely more valuable than any fleeting display of wealth. It's also a sobering reminder that we never truly know who we are dealing with. A stranger in line could be a global superstar or someone battling a silent hardship. Appearances can mislead us, and our snap judgments can do more harm than we realize. By offering empathy rather than disdain, we give ourselves the space to learn about the real person behind the facade. So ask yourself, are you living to impress others, or are you striving to be the best version of yourself? Would you treat someone differently if you knew they were important, or if you knew they were hurting? Every day is an opportunity to choose kindness, humility, and respect. Thank you for joining us at Motivation for Success. If this story resonated with you, remember that the smallest gestures can often have the greatest impact. Subscribe to our channel for more stories that warm your heart and challenge your perspective. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever misjudged someone before? How did it change you? If this story moved you, consider spreading kindness today. A kind word, a simple smile, or a helping hand can brighten someone's life more than you might ever know. Let's take the lessons from this encounter and bring a little more light into our world. Safe travels, and we'll see you in our next story.